Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to MOODment here on eCAV Radio. Hope you guys had a good weekend because I have a fantastic show for you today. My guest in the studio with me is Mr. Aaron Rhodes, who runs the online music blog Shuttlecock Mag and also works at the Campus Ledger. We talk about a lot of fun things, get to hear a lot of great music. Speaking of music, let's go ahead and get the show kicked off with one of the tracks that Aaron had sent me. This is Angels by Chance the Rapper. After this song is done, we'll go ahead and jump right into the interview, which will take us up to our very first commercial break. You're tuned into MOODment here on eCAV Radio.
Angel. I got my city doing front flips. When every father mayor rapper jump ship. I guess that's why they call it where I stay. Clean up the streets so my daughter can have somewhere to play. I'm the blueprint to a real man. Some of these toss they tassel for a deal, man. I ain't going to hell or the hill, man. For my real fans. I got caught up with a Lil Xan. Couldn't stop me, but it slowed me though. Yeah, famous, you don't know me though. But their DJ still play me though. Them I don't even need the radio. Sound like a rodeo. Got the old folks dance on the do-do. So they round sound me the OVO. Ooh, I just might share my next one with Keith. Got the industry in disbelief. They be asking for beef. This what it sound like when God split an atom with me. I even had Steve giving out apples for free.
They was talking, woo, this who up the band. City so great, I feel like Alexander. Way on Halo like a hat, that's like the latest fashion. I got angels all around me, they keep me surrounded.
Who is you and who is them? All of a sudden, who up the bam? You can't touch me, nah. I got angels. I got angels. I ain't changed my number since the 7th grade. This from my day 1, 10 years, 7 days, a week. Never tired on their Kevin Gates. And if they rest in peace, they bunny hop in heaven's gates. It's too many young angels on the south side. Got us scared to let our grandmamas outside. You gon' make me take the campus way downtown. You gon' make me turn my BM to my house wide. I just had a growth spurt. It just took so long my tippy toes hurt. You can keep the nose ring, I don't have to soul search. I'm still at my old church, only ever sold merch. Grandma say I'm kosher, mama say I'm culture. GCI 107.5, Angel going live. Power 92, Angel Juke, Angel gone juke. GCI 107.5, going live. Power 92, Angel gone juke.
They was talking, woo, this who up the band. City so great, I feel like Alexander. Way on Halo like a hat, that's like the latest fashion. I got angels all around me, they keep me surrounded. Up the band. I got angels all around me, they keep me surrounded.
I got angels.
They was talking, woo, this who up the band. City so great, I feel like Alexander. Way on Halo like a hat, that's like the latest fashion. I got angels all around me, they keep me surrounded.
Who is you and who is them? All of a sudden, who up the bam? You can't touch me, nah. I got angels. I got angels.
Okay, we are in the studio today. My special guest in the studio with me is Mr. Aaron Rhodes. You are a local blogger. You work for the Campus Ledger as well.
I do.
I think you play in a band.
I have played in a couple bands, not any currently, but...
Okay. Your blog online that you run is called shuttlecockmusic.com, and you also have a podcast. Tell me a little bit about how you kind of got started in the blogging sphere.
Well, I wrote for my high school newspaper, the Olathe East Hawkeye, for all 4 years of high school, and I was always really excited to do, music coverage, but it wasn't always something we had room to fit in, so I've always been interested in doing music journalism as a profession, so I figured if I can't get all my music coverage in the high school newspaper, I should be putting it somewhere online, so that's kind of how it started last summer.
Okay, so the blog's been around for almost a year now.
Yeah, it's in May.
Did you start it? How has it developed since you've started? What kind of additional things have you added since kind of day one?
Well, I initially thought I would just pretty much be doing concert reviews, since I'm at shows pretty often. But since then, I've kind of, I started with 1 or 2 concert reviews. I had maybe 4 articles like my first month, but since then I've gradually added photo galleries, streams of new albums from local artists, interviews, and other small features. Yeah, recently the podcast I started.
So you say you go to a lot of concerts.
I do.
So when you do a show review, tell me, so do you go into a show thinking I'm going to review the show, or do you just go to the show and if it ends up being, exactly what you wanted it to be, then you'll do a review on it?
Usually I've kind of figured out beforehand if I'm going to review the show because, if it's just like two bands playing in some basement somewhere, like it doesn't usually turn out to be something worth a giant review, even if it is like a really good show. So like usually I'll pick out like 2 shows every month in advance that I know are going to be particularly interesting and exciting, and kind of go from there.
Tell me kind of what your baseline is for interesting and exciting when you're picking out these shows.
Any artist that is, kind of gaining momentum or I think should be more well-known than they are, or even like kind of big acts from the past that are coming through. Like I reviewed the Addicts, this old British punk band, when they came to Kansas City last year, and I think, there wasn't any other website or publication really covering that, so I thought that was worth doing.
Have you ever planned to go to a show, do a review on it, and it just turns out terribly?
No, because the show, it doesn't matter if the show goes bad, because I'll write a review about it regardless. If the show's bad, I'll let people know. But there have been a couple where I've just been like too exhausted afterwards, or like I have like personally a bad time, and I kind of end up being like, oh, I can't write this right now. So, but usually it works out all right.
What's up? Welcome back to Indie MOODment here on eCAV Radio. If you're just tuning in, my special guest on the show today is Mr. Aaron Rhodes, who runs the online blog Shuttlecock Mag and also works at the Campus Ledger. During this particular segment of the interview, Aaron and I talk about his blog, the way he creates thorough content and everything that he puts up on the blog, how to take a really good live photo, gives us some tips on that. He tells us how he discovers and absorbs music, and he has a great story about the metal band Superjoint Ritual. So here we go. So the site, it looks like you cover a lot of different genres when I was looking through. Do you see the blog continuing to cover and kind of extend out the genres you're covering, or are you guys just trying to focus in on 1 or 2 genres?
It pretty much does at this point revolve around my personal taste, which is, I think pretty wide for, somebody my age or, in general, I guess, but
anything in particular, like, because I know that you, like we were talking about earlier, you're a real big fan of hardcore and punk.
Yeah, I do end up going to a lot of punk shows and covering those, as well as, I try to work in a lot of hip-hop coverage. Those are pretty much my 2 big personal genres. But I do think I try to, I will sometimes push myself to go to a show that I'm not incredibly interested in, even if, just to get some coverage of a band I think is worthy of it, because, there are lots of solid publications in Kansas City and Lawrence, but a lot of times they end up specializing too much. I mean, it's important to have specialty blogs, like, there's a couple hip-hop blogs that are pretty good, and a couple I know that just cover rock music. But I think more blogs should be going in-depth in multiple genres, and kind of, I try to go outside the lines, kind of, the pitch will be covering, like, I feel like the same 5 bands every issue. And, yeah, I'm just trying to bring exposure to bands and artists that don't particularly fit any of the current publications boxes.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned the diversity thing, because what I've been experiencing a lot now is that with a lot of blogs, they're just so clickbait heavy. Like, they just want to post some stuff that people are going to click on, which I get from I want to get people and I want to get eyes on my site. But from the other hand, it's like they have a responsibility, in my opinion, to be journalists. And to go and dig deep, not just copy the press release and just put it up online, Yeah,
definitely. Like, I don't, I'm open to doing it in the future, but I don't currently make a whole post on my site when there's a new single out, just like one new song from somebody, or they just announced an album or something. Like, I like to kind of do my best to go more in depth every time I post something, so it's really something you can kind of sink your teeth into when you bring my website up. Like, so maybe I won't have like 20 articles in a week, but I will have like 3 or 4 that you can really kind of dig into and be interested in.
They have that substance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw when you posted, and all the photos that you put up, are those primarily taken by you?
Yeah, I mean, there's been, maybe a handful of shows that I've had some colleagues do, but yeah, pretty much, 90% of the pictures I'm posting, I'm taking at the shows.
So explain to me how to get a good live shot that kind of tells the story of the show and of the artist, because I've always struggled. I struggle with the basics, like, it's not in focus. Mm-hmm. But, being able to kind of get that one shot from the certain angle that kind of tells a story, tell me how you frame that up.
It depends on where you're shooting, because if you're at like a bigger theater or a club venue, you pretty much do just want to take as many pictures as you can and just have your camera settings, set up right from the beginning and just kind of go crazy and go back and find the best shots later. But if you are at like a house show or like a record store show, you do kind of, it can get kind of boring if you're just in the same spot the whole time. So you got to want to, focus less on taking a lot of pictures and kind of frame your shots kind of like from a composition standpoint. But yeah, it varies.
So the getting back to talking about how thorough your reviews are, tell me how you sit down and absorb an album to cover on your blog.
Well, as far as like discovery wise, I'll just kind of browse SoundCloud and Bandcamp and like artists I've seen recently at shows. And once I kind of zero in on a album to talk about, I usually start with a good paragraph about background of the artist and when they started and if they have any like important members. Most of my album write-ups are 2 or 3 paragraphs. And so after the background, I'll do just try and go as in-depth as possible on, the sonic qualities of the album, like the
audio recording.
Yeah, describing the recording and the techniques that are, well, maybe not recording techniques, but just overall sound and like who to compare it to.
Techniques.
Yeah, maybe some of that. And yeah, I mean, I'll break it down like I'll figure out a few like key tracks and mention why they're important and why I like them personally, and just kind of work from there.
So what type of time do you spend planning and writing and editing and posting, keeping the website up to date?
I'm working on it, daily pretty much, but I'm usually at between 1 and 3 or 4 concerts a week, and most of those end up either being photo galleries or concert reviews, and I'll usually do 1 or 2 interviews a month and probably 3 or 4 album streams every month as well.
So do you have anyone else at the blog that helps you out, or is it just all you?
It's mostly me, but I'm actually currently trying to kind of expand, who's creating the content I'm looking into. I just had recently my first kind of guest column that I had. It was
nice.
My friend Ashley Farrow. She runs a store called Upside KC in downtown Kansas City by the Sprint Center. And she sells vintage clothing and tapes and zines. And she kind of curates her own little space there that she has on the weekends. And I recently posted the first one, but I'm having her pick out a zine that she likes every month and kind of write about that and what she enjoys about it. And they're all stuff that she has in the store, so kind of ties in good with the community. I think it's going to be a fun thing to have. I'm also, kind of in talks with a couple other people about column ideas, but yeah, it's mostly me right now, but I'm reaching out to a lot of people.
And then on top of all that, as we had just kind of mentioned, you have a podcast now. I think you're on episode 2?
Yeah, I just posted the second one a couple of days ago.
And it's mainly kind of like streaming online radio. Is that kind of the idea behind it?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I don't do too much talking yet. I'm just kind of introducing the tracks, and I'll maybe, mention like a little tidbit about the album or the band. But yeah, it's just kind of my way of introducing new songs or, sometimes, kind of older tracks, but mostly new songs that I'm interested in from Kansas City and Lawrence artists, as opposed to every single day posting a new song on the website and having to do like a whole written piece on it. It's just kind of my way of saying like, hey, check out this band. They have a good new song. And then you get to hear it for yourself instead of reading somebody talking about a song for 4 paragraphs.
And then on top of all that, it looks like you guys also, or Shuttlecock also does showcases. You guys had showcase at Mills, I think.
Yeah, our first one was back in January on my birthday. That was kind of a fun gathering we got to have. I initially picked out 5 artists, but one of them dropped at the last minute. So it was 4 bands and artists that I had featured on my website since I started it, like with interviews and other coverage. And they all played half-hour sets at Mills Record Company, and it had a pretty good turnout, and it was a good, fun little free evening for all my friends and the few non-friends I have that read the blog, I think.
That's very cool, man.
Yeah.
So did you have a hard time booking all those bands, or was it pretty easy?
Oh, no, it was pretty easy.
Yeah.
I mean, there are, a lot of the artists I cover, I kind of form at least a small connection with and a little correspondence. So if they weren't my friends, I just kind of checked with them on Twitter and Facebook and kind of set it up.
So did you reach out to Judy at Mills to set that up?
Oh, yeah.
How'd you go about?
We're pretty good friends with Mills, so that was pretty easy. And yeah, we're looking to have the second one over the summer. I think it's going to be kind of a bi-yearly thing, just to kind of, if you're interested, you can come see the bands that I'm talking about like every week and every month. So,
do you have any locations in mind for this next showcase?
I think we're going to be keeping them at Mills
Cool.
for the foreseeable future, unless there's any kind of crazy boost I get somehow. I don't know. and Mills is actually moving into a new space pretty soon, I think. So, that it is a bit of an expansion, I guess. They'll have a bigger stage in the future, I think, over the summer. I think they're moving around the corner.
So tell me about how you came up with the name. Are you like a badminton pro?
Oh, I'm not. I just I wanted something that kind of symbolized the Kansas City area, and I think the shuttlecock on the lawn at the Nelson is pretty agreed upon as a Kansas City area symbol.
So are you 21?
I'm 19.
Okay. So is it hard to go and see shows because a lot of the venues are 21 and up, or is it just like there is just a whole, like when I was younger, there were just there's house parties and house concerts just every weekend, and so a lot of the younger crowd would go to that as opposed to trying to get into the 21 and up places. Yeah. Is there a pretty good diversity in Kansas City that you've seen between house shows and all ages shows and 21 and up?
I do think that Kansas City. Lawrence is different. Lawrence has always been kind of easy to do all ages shows because you have the college crowd. But
right.
I think Kansas City's all ages scene has actually kind of declined a bit in the past year or two with the Beaumont closing. And the Record Bar, it wasn't always all ages, but before they closed their last location, that kind of did get rid of like a lot of shows that would have been at the Record Bar. I've noticed are going to like the Riot Room. And other bars. So, I do. Luckily, I have kind of met a handful of people that will get me into like the 21 and up shows, but there are definitely times every once in a while when I have trouble getting into those, I do try and cover, every show that I'm interested in. So, there have been multiple times where I was close to not getting into those. And I do think Kansas City does need to kind of, it is hard from like a legal and a financial standpoint to have a solid all ages venue. And I understand that, but there is some work that needs to be done on making shows more available for younger crowds.
Right. Do venues let press in, maybe that are a little bit younger? Because they'll let musicians in, maybe that are like 18. They'll be like, yeah, you got to play, but then you got to leave.
Yeah.
Do they ever kind of let you guys in?
Yeah, it's never, there aren't huge shows that are 21 and up. Mm-hmm. So it is just kind of usually the owner or whoever's working there's decision. So it's usually just kind of up to that.
Do you cover any festivals?
I have not covered any festivals for the blog yet. I'm hoping to be covering the Middle of the Map Festival this summer in Kansas City, And there are a couple bands I want to see at Rockfest if I can get the credentials. That might be kind of fun, and maybe Beach Ball as well. So, I'm definitely open to it. But, I started early last summer, and I didn't have much of a presence back then. So this will be like the first year where I'm, kind of running full steam when there are festivals in town. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to be looking into that.
Are there any particular acts that are going to be playing at those festivals that you just mentioned?
At Beach Ball, the Violent Femmes I know are playing. That would be cool to cover.
That'll be real cool.
I don't remember who else I was interested there. There are definitely a couple others. And at Rockfest, I'd like to see Ghost.
Yes.
And
they're just in Lawrence.
I've not caught them yet. They've been here a couple of times, and I haven't made it, but. Yeah, they would be good, and hell yeah, just because they have members of Pantera, and that is a bit of a guilty pleasure for me. They're really fun, so I'd like
Aside from Phil, take him out of the picture.
Oh, dude, I did see Superjoint Ritual, which is nice. Phil's new band last year. My friends in Altered Beast opened that show, and they put me on the guest list from that. So this happens too often. There were multiple shows I wanted to go to that night. So I saw Basement down at the Jackpot down the street from the Granada that night. So once that show was over and it ended at like 10 or 11, I walked down the street to the Granada where Altered Beast had just played and Superjoint was on stage. And I got in there, and Phil Anselmo was in the middle of like the most like racist, sexist, misogynistic rant I had ever witnessed at a concert. And it was like all my friends were just cracking up, and it was quite the spectacle. Yeah,
no, man. And he tries to go on social media after that and be like, oh, I didn't say that. It's like, dude, everyone's got phones. You really can't hide these
Pretty
days.
Much.
Maybe back in the early 90s you could hide. But taking Phil out, dude. Pantera. Yeah. Oh, these guys are amazing.
Yeah. And Middle of the Map Fest will be good as well. Lots of, there's only a handful of like touring bands that are playing that this year, but they did a really good job with who they do have. And I'm looking forward to seeing, a good dozen or so bands there if I can make it.
Yeah. Do you ever check out Free State Fest down in Lawrence?
Oh, yeah. I wasn't there for, the whole thing, but I did get to two nights of it last year. I did see the free George Clinton show. That was a good time. Although his show was better when I saw him a few years ago at the Crossroads. Okay. It was probably because that wasn't a free show and they played a little longer, and I think the band was a little different. But yeah, that was George Clinton free on the street in Lawrence was fun. And I also saw Mike Watt from the Minutemen play a Clash cover set and then a Minutemen set after a screening of the Damned documentary that they played for the festival. So yeah, that was really fun. I'm interested to see who they'll have this year. It seems like they always get a interesting lineup.
All right, and with that, we're going to go ahead and take a very, very short break. I promise it'll be very short. But when we get back, we'll be talking more with our guest today, Mr. Aaron Rhodes. You're tuned into Indie MOODment on eCAV Radio. Welcome back to Indie MOODment on eCAV Radio. If you're just tuning in, thank you so much for joining us. My special guest on the show today is Mr. Aaron Rhodes, who runs the online music blog Shuttlecock Mag. During this part of the interview, Aaron talks to us about the very first live show he ever attended. We discuss how he has developed his musical palette. Aaron talks about the biggest challenge he runs into when covering live shows, and we get to hear some of the local artists that he's currently listening to. And speaking of music, let's go ahead and check out another song that Aaron sent me by Sheer Mag called Fan the Flames. After the song is done, we'll jump right back into the interview, which will take us up to our next commercial break. You're tuned into Indie MOODment here on eCAV Radio.
It's me you gotta give it to. We pay
It's really cool, man, that you just mentioned Mike Watt and the Minutemen and Pantera. I mean, 19. So if you find all your music online, do you just check out like modern acts and then start digging into who influenced them? Or how do you discover outside of just going on YouTube? Or
You know, I've been listening to music like pretty avidly since I was in like middle school, like 13 or 14. Like I went to my first concerts when I was like 13.
Who was it?
First one was like a Buzz concert. It was The Offspring with Taking Back Sunday and The Used.
Oh my gosh.
That was pretty exciting for 13-year-old Aaron. Those bands are still fun. I still enjoy all those bands. But
you know what's interesting? I just was listening to a podcast the other day, and the singer from The Offspring is actually a scientist, and he's trying to like fight AIDS.
Really?
Yeah.
I knew Milo from The Descendants was super into like science stuff, but I didn't know Dexter did that.
Yeah, Dexter Holland, man. It was really cool. Huh. But yeah, no, Offspring and The Used and Taking Back Sunday. Wow.
Yeah, that was
sweet.
Fun. You know, so I do have, like, the first kind of bands I got into were like pop punk, like Sum 41, Blink-182, Green Day, and lots of like 90s punk, like Rancid, The Offspring, NoFX. Like, those are all kind of like my first favorite bands.
Strung Out?
So, I've listened to Strung Out before. They're not, I don't know too much about them, but they're fun. But yeah, those were all the first bands I got into, and I just kind of went back from there, and I got into 80s hardcore really heavy, and that's still pretty much my favorite like subgenre, and yeah, I got into all that, and there were current bands of like all the genres I enjoy happening, you know, when I was in middle school and high school, and through those bands I just kind of found out who they were influenced by, what labels they were on, and just kind of methodically, you know, went back and to the beginning of those genres and kind of got the important bands from there.
Yeah, man. So being a music blogger, you dissect the music. You get down deep into it. So having such a high knowledge of late 80s, 90s, 2000s, and where we're at now, what types of changes have you seen, if any at all, kind of in the music that you cover?
You know, I don't think there's been, you know, huge changes since I've been covering it, really. But, you know, it kind of depends on the genre, you know, like, you know, I do think rap is kind of moving away from being, you know, very gangster and, you know, having those aspects. Like, you know, a lot of, even though Chicago and Atlanta still have some of the most popular and, you know, some of the best, actually, you know, rappers, but there are lots of kids, you know, who are just on SoundCloud all the time and just constantly just listening to rap music, who are influenced by, you know, the kind of early 2000s and current rappers, but, you know, they don't have the background that those rappers had. So it's interesting hearing those sounds being used for more, you know, thoughtful, introspective rappers and, like, their lyrics. Mm-hmm. And, you know, punk-wise, you know, I don't think much has really changed in the last couple of years. You know, it's all still solid. You know, there's, like, a big... At least I noticed, like, I thought there was a big, like, 80s hardcore revival that started back. Like, you know, there were always bands that were doing it, but, like, the scene got really big again back in, like, 2011, 2012, and they're currently kind of riding that wave. And, yeah, there's lots of other genres that are kind of in similar spots.
When I first started this radio show, Indie MOODment, I was talking to a couple of buddies, and they told me that one of the most difficult things that they run into is getting songs from local musicians. So reaching out, being like, hey, I want to feature you on the show, and then being like, yeah, that sounds cool. And then we reach out to try to get songs, and it's like you got to follow up 15, 20 times. Do you run into that as a blogger, trying to get music from, let's say, an artist who you want to feature on the site?
Not really, because everything I post is usually just a stream that they have already posted, right, you know, on SoundCloud or Bandcamp, and I just kind of embed those links on there. So no, I haven't really had any problem. Like, I haven't gone in depth with my coverage of any local acts that are on like major labels or even larger indie labels.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I've never faced that problem yet. Like, there have been one or two instances where, you know, they just haven't had their music posted anywhere. But besides that, no, it's pretty much available for me.
What's the hardest thing you would say about running your blog?
Getting promoters, to get you into the shows.
For like press.
Yeah, getting like photo passes and entry to shows because, like I said, some of them are 21 and up that I want to be covering. And also some are, kind of shows at larger theaters or venues like that. And it's pretty difficult to reach some of those people.
So is it the promoter of the show or the talent buyer at the venue? Or does it just kind of probably just differs with each act?
It varies. It's kind of hard to nail down a contact for a lot of places. Sometimes you'll get referred to like a tour manager. Sometimes it'll be the promotions people at the venue. Sometimes it'll be the band. So it varies.
What's your favorite thing that you've put up on your blog that you just from, since you put it up, you're like, this is something I'm the most proud of. This is kind of like the most favorite thing that I've done on this blog.
Well, my favorite, thing that happens is when people find a new artist and they're really excited about them and they post about it and they get excited and they go to the new show. That's, pretty much one of the goals I have.
So they repost your feature.
No, yeah. I mean, they don't have to, but just like even like tweeting like, hey, I've just found this band because of your blog. That's, that's exciting for me. But like if you're talking about like a specific article that I've posted that I'm the most proud of, probably a couple of my, like 2 or 3 of my concert reviews, because those are the times where I do like just dig in and, write my best, I think. I have the most source material, the whole thing that happened, and I just get to whittle it down and mention my favorite moments and just kind of recreate it for anybody that wasn't there. Like, I know my Post Malone concert review got a lot of views, and I was pretty excited with how that turned out. My Addicts concert review was fun, and that is what pissed off a few bands that played I've heard about. And, there are 1 or 2 others that I'm pretty excited with how they've came out.
What are some local artists that you're really digging right now?
Right now, well, I have a bunch of friends who live in a house together down near Westport, and they, like, almost every single person that lives in the house, and there's, like, at least 5 or 6 of them, they're all in, like, punk bands together. And they're just, like, every single day they're, like, practicing and starting new bands and recording. And a lot of the projects that are coming out of that house, the compound they call it, they a lot of those bands are like some of the best punk bands in the city. Like my friend Bennett Weaver, who plays in a lot of those bands, just released a 2-song little demo of a project he recorded all the instruments for and wrote all the lyrics, and that's called Gene. He named it after like his old landlord that like pissed them all off at some point.
So Gene, like the name Gene.
Yeah,
G-E-N-E?
yeah.
Okay.
Out of that house, you have Gene, a band called Kilky Cat, and then the Drippies, which is Kilky Cat plus their friend who sings, and so they have different songs with that.
Nice.
And then there's Columbine Kids, which is like a surf rock style.
Which is a very interesting name.
Yeah, I'm sure they will pick up some flack over that at some point soon as they play more shows.
Any local like MCs that you're really into?
Oh yeah, the Kansas City's rap scene, like the punk scene and the indie rock scene is like they've both slowly become better over the years, and they've always been pretty solid to some extent. But yeah, the rap scene this year I think is really kind of at a turning point. Like lots of the rappers that are going to be releasing projects this year are kind of the next thing. Like G Watts, he has like at least 4 projects that are already out, but he has a new one called Caviart, which is coming out within the next month. I think he's playing a show in Lawrence this week, which might be the release show, but it's not too clear yet. But I went to a listening party for that album.
Nice.
We played a bunch of songs from that, and that sounds really good so far. So that should probably be one of the hip-hop highlights from Kansas City this year. And there's lots of... And Rory Fresco is an artist I interviewed in December. He's 18 years old, I believe, and he just got signed to Epic Records.
Oh, congratulations.
And, yeah,
to him. That's great.
Yeah, he's doing good. Yeah, he actually kind of blew up because Kanye West released a new song back in a few months ago before the new album came out. That's and right. his song played directly after Kanye West's new song on SoundCloud. So that's how everybody found out about him, and he had 1 million listens on that song because of that. And yeah, he got signed after that. And I had his first full interview that I think he'd ever done back in December before any of that happened. So that was kind of exciting to see happen.
Yeah, dude, I just put 2 and 2 together when you'd mentioned that. Yeah, I totally heard about that.
Yeah.
It's crazy how fate works out sometimes.
Yeah, he'll tell you differently. He did work hard on that, but yeah, it was kind of lucky that it happened that way.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, a lot of the artists work hard, but it's like a lot of people say, well, it's luck. Well, okay, partially is luck, but you have to be prepared when you get that lucky opportunity. And so he had that luck and he was prepared for it, and that's awesome for him.
Yeah, there's a guy named Aaron Michael I just interviewed who went down and played a bunch in South by Southwest, and he'll be releasing a project this year. And my friend Aaron Alexander has one coming soon. Yeah, there's just a whole handful of really exciting producers and rappers that I think are going to kind of make their name this year, and I'm excited to see it happen, and I'm going to be covering all of it.
When you sit down to digest music, do you listen to the lyrics first? Do you focus in on that, or do you listen to the music first? Or what kind of piques your ear when you're sitting down and absorbing new music? Yeah,
honestly, well, at least for rap is a little different, I'd say, in the way I cover it. But I think rock bands do have to be musically interesting for me to be interested in them. I'm not going to listen to like the new Adele album just because she has beautiful lyrics. You should listen to that. I'm like, no, if it's not put over music that I can, ride in my car to, or just get excited by, it's not really worth it for me usually. So it has to draw from an interesting or important sound or genre for me, and the lyrics come next after that, I'd say.
Nice. Welcome back to Indie Movement here on eCAV Radio. Thank you so much for tuning into the show today, and many thanks to my special guest, Mr. Aaron Rhodes. When you guys get a chance, go and check out his blog at shuttlecockmag.blogspot.com. It's a fantastic site. I love the artists that he covers and the content that he puts up. After Aaron gives his shout-outs during this last part of the interview, we are going to wrap the show up with Parquet Court's track Stone and Starving. See you guys on Wednesday. I'm your host, A Beats, signing off. Do you want to give any shout-outs?
I'd like to shout out all the crew at the Campus Ledger here at JCCC, good people, all my homies. I actually don't have any homies. No, I do.
Well, when you do, you can get them back to listen to this. And
yeah.
Thanks for the shout out.
Yeah, shout out to Roman for taking video at the first Shuttlecock Showcase at Mills. Shout out to everybody at Mills, everybody who's ever worked on columns or photos for the site, and all of the wonderful Lawrence and Kansas City acts that I cover every day.
Very cool. Where can people find you online?
The website is shuttlecockmusic.com, and on Facebook you can search Shuttlecock Music Magazine, and on Twitter and Instagram it is at Shuttlecock Mag.
You have any plans to go print in the future?
I did make like a little folded one-page photo book from a few pictures I took at a show of the OCs last year when I saw them, but I don't think I currently have the budget to do a full print edition, but I am definitely open to doing some kind of print projects in the future. That'd be fun.
Excellent. Well, thank you for coming in today.
Of course. Thank you.
Should I eat this? I was so started starving. I was scratching off silver ink. I was deciding what to drink. I was so